Sat Sri Akal.
Sat Sri Akal.
Happy Baisakhi. I want to have businesses be able to have the opportunity to stay in business. California is one of the least business-friendly environments. We are in a huge deficit right now, and with better management, fiscal responsibility, we can get the freedoms that business owners and farmers need, and the services, have less crime, better education for our children without having to increase taxes. It's just mismanagement of the money they already get.
How does a state like California, 100 billion in surplus, become 70 billion in deficit in a year?
Every state worker did a 2-day furlough and a 10% pay cut because they were preemptively preparing for a loss of revenue. And then they had a surplus and thought, oh, wow, we're doing great. We have a surplus. Well, yeah, you cut every worker in your entire workforce by 10%. So, of course, you have a surplus. Did they give that money back to taxpayers? No. Did they give that money back to the employees who they cut? No. They just frivolously spent it. And then they spent more than that because now we're in a deficit.
ਸੋ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਮੋਡੈਸਟੋ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੋਂ ਕਵਰੇਜ ਜਾਰੀ ਆ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਗਮ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋਆਨਾ ਗਾਰਸੀਆ ਰੋਜ਼ ਜੁੜੇ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਰਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਆਓ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਹੈਲੋ
Sat Sri Akal.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
Happy Baisakhi.
Thank you. Happy Vaisakhi to you too. So, Joanna, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am a working mom, and I am running for state assembly in District 27, Joanna Garcia Rose, and I really just want to fight to bring our freedoms back. I want to have businesses be able to have the opportunity to stay in business. California is one of the least business-friendly environments. Farming, water, the key issues in the Central Valley that make this place a great home for me to raise my child, same as you to raise yours. We have to fight for that in Sacramento. We need to bring things back to balance in California.
Which district you're running for?
It's District 27, so it's Merced, Madera, and Fresno counties.
Okay. So which cities mainly come under it?
It starts just south of Livingston, goes all the way through Atwater, Merced, Chowchilla, Madera, and then it cuts off and doesn't include Fresno city limits, but it includes Mendota, Kerman, Coalinga, all the way down between the 5 and the 99 corridor, basically.
What prompted you to run for it?
I've got many years of experience at EDD as a tax auditor, and I just really think that we need someone in the legislature who knows the state processes but wants to hold them accountable. We need fiscal responsibility. We are in a huge deficit right now, and with better management, fiscal responsibility, we can get the freedoms that business owners and farmers need, and the services, have less crime, better education for our children without having to increase taxes. It's just mismanagement of the money they already get.
EDD is one of the mismanaged, one of the things you can say. Billions of dollars went out of country during COVID. So as a tax auditor, what do you see? Can you spill the beans?
I don't have any real beans to spill. It just was a perfect storm. We had the least unemployment in a long time, so we were understaffed using antiquated computer systems. And then the leadership, which I'm not in agreement with some of our leadership at the state legislature, the guide was to just get everyone as much money as possible, as fast as possible, because certain families were hungry. But it also opened up the door for a lot of fraud. And it was really unfortunate. I hope that they're persecuting and trying to get some of that back. We should have had better checks and balances before we distributed billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So we can't go back in time.
Yeah. So as a tax auditor and things you see, you're saying there's a lot of mismanagement. If you're elected, how do you see you can accomplish it?
We just need to focus on the core needs and stop the waste. There's kind of sentiments when we have the surplus where departments want to hurry and spend as much money as possible because if they don't, it's going to get taken away. And that's a terrible mindset. We should be saving it unless we need it so that then when we have a deficit, we can be prepared. And did you know there's actually a limit to the rainy day fund that the state departments can save?
How much is that?
I'd have to look into it. I'm not exactly sure the limit. It might vary per agency. But we should not limit savings. Can you imagine if you were only allowed to save so much money? How would you ever accomplish any goals?
Yeah. So how does a state like California, 100 billion in surplus, become 70 billion in deficit in a year?
I mean, in my opinion, some of that surplus money was fake. When the pandemic broke out, every state worker did a 2-day furlough and a 10% pay cut because they were preemptively preparing for a loss of revenue. And then they had a surplus and thought, oh, wow, we're doing great. We have a surplus. Well, yeah, you cut every worker in your entire workforce by 10%. So, of course, you have a surplus. Did they give that money back to taxpayers? No. Did they give that money back to the employees who they cut? No. They just frivolously spent it, and then they spent more than that because now we're in a deficit.
Yeah. So I think they started many programs which were supposed to be just for COVID, but they continued it afterwards as well.
Yes, there was a lot of things that I think that they did beyond what was necessary for the urgent need of COVID, and they kept the programs going for longer than necessary. There was also issues because the federal stipend for the unemployment was a huge amount of money, and it wasn't prorated. So some people were actually making more on unemployment than they were when they were going to work at their McDonald's job. You know, and on top of that, it was the perfect storm because we had AB5 pass, which makes it very difficult for a lot of small businesses to continue being able to operate and start a business. You know, it's a lot harder in California to start a business. So we need to reduce the legislation. We need to break down the barriers and make it back to a state and a country that we were founded on, constitutional principles where we can all seek the American or the California dream.
True. So, any other words you want to say to our listeners, our viewers?
Just thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and I hope you check out my website at joannaforthevalley.com. I'm really interested in hearing from the Sikh community and what specific things I can do to help you when I get to the legislature. That's my job as your assemblywoman, is to help you get what you need in your communities to have a prosperous and happy life.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you so much.
Sat Sri Akal.